Are you concerned about all this corruption being rebranded as conspiracy theory? Well, don't you worry. Sit back and relax and join in the conversation with today's guest. Welcome to another LSB Film Productions podcast with your host, Chris Brooks.
Hello and welcome to the show. It's me, Chris Brooks, for another LSB Film podcast. I hope everyone's keeping well. Today I've got the incredible Sandi Adams here, and we're going to discuss all kinds of things. We're going to discuss devolution, because that's kind of in our faces at the moment, especially with the election holdbacks, which I think there's been a U-turn on that, but you might know more on that than I do. And yeah, we're going to discuss all kinds of manner of things. We're just going to flow. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Chris. It's really great to be here. Thank you.
Likewise, lovely to have you here. So what's been going on in your world?
Oh, well, what's been going on in my world has been going on in everyone's world, and some of us know more than others. So it's yeah, I mean, I've just always been someone that really is a bit of a clarion bell to what's going on. And you know, I've been on this for quite a long time now, over 15 years. And I just, you know, I really thought years ago, when I was talking about Agenda 21 and the Earth Summit, and how 178 countries signed up to Agenda 21 at the Earth Summit to save the planet, and how it was all a big con, and it was all, you know, the people that organized the Earth Summit were oil billionaires, and they literally just got every country to sign up to it, and then clinked their champagne glasses on Royal Yacht Britannia with Prince Charles and said, yeah, we did it. We got everyone to sign up to global governance. You know, that's what they wanted. And they got it, you know, and the people that signed up, the world leaders, had no idea, I think, what they were doing. It was all a big party. It was all to save the planet, and brilliant. And I honestly thought that we would be able to fight this by proving that that the whole climate scam was a scam, and that we'd be able to overturn it, reverse it. And it wasn't until, I think, well, we had Greta Thunberg here in sort of 2018, 2019, sort of wagging her finger, and she didn't go down well.
How dare you?
Yeah, how dare you?
How dare
And
you?
I thought, oh, you know, we've cracked it, because she fled and she disappeared for a while. And I thought, you know, maybe all the information that's coming out from real scientists, maybe it's all, you know, going to go away. And then, of course, COVID happened. And when I looked into the research for COVID, I realized that in 2019, they had tried to accelerate the 17 goals of Agenda 2030. Now, Agenda 21 started in 1992. They wanted to actually have it all done by the year 2000, believe it or not, and they failed. They had 8 millennium goals to get the whole climate thing sorted, and to get global control by the year 2000. That failed, so they had to then in
Was there a significance to 1992? Why they chose that?
No, it was. I tell you what, it was a culmination of a lot of work that they'd done prior, since 1970. It's a long story, and you know, but it was the Club of Rome, the WEF, and the United Nations. Now, the Club of Rome is really is an arm of the United Nations, and it's a crisis think tank. And over a number of years, they'd come up with Club of Rome reports to support their takeover of the world. You know, to go into it, I mean, it's all on my website, actually, sandiadams.net. But it was a number of reports. The first one was in 1972, and it was called Limits to Growth, and it was all about there's not enough resources to go around. We have to talk about depopulation and population control. And so that was a big one. So they put the fear of God into a lot of people around that time, that there were too many people on the planet and not enough resources. And they made wild accusations about, you know, there won't be enough food by 1980 and blah, 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 or 85. And they used computer modeling, and it was all, you know where that gets us, you know, it's awful.
Yeah, don't we just?
Yeah. Then they published another one in 1987, which was all about levelling up economies throughout the world. And that was it's called the Brundtland Report, which Prince Charles, it's his Bible at the moment, the Brundtland Report, which is about giving foreign aid to third world countries. And it was when all our money shifted over to India and China. We all our industry went, and it was all about making the West is too polluting, the West is too rich. We have to give it to third world countries, other countries, and this is where all the foreign aid came in, and it impoverished the West. And actually, Maurice Strong at the Earth Summit said, "Isn't it time the West collapsed? Isn't it our duty to make this happen?" So we know that they want to collapse the West. I mean, that Maurice Strong, who was the grandfather of Agenda 21, he was an oil billionaire who headed up the Earth Summit, and he said there, we need to make the West collapse, and that's what we're seeing right now.
Was he American?
He's Canadian.
Canadian.
Yeah, he worked for the Rockefellers for about 17 years.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, he was born into poverty actually in Canada in 1929, and he then somehow wheedled his way into high finance. I don't know how he did it, but he managed to get into high finance. He worked with the Rockefellers for 17 years, and then he became an oil billionaire in his own right. And he set up a lot of the carbon credit banks before the Earth Summit. The whole thing was to clear up financially with carbon credit banks. They knew what they were doing. And he ended his days in China because he got involved in the oil for food scandal with Adnan Khashoggi after the Earth Summit, and he was going to be put in jail in America. He's a crook. I mean, when you realize that these are crooks that organized this whole Earth Summit to save the planet, which is why we're in the mess we're in, really. They brought in the 17 goals, everything. So what happened was he went over to China. He was a great friend of Chairman Mao's. It all fits in. He loved the Chinese system of social credit, the whole thing. And he did die a few years ago. But you've then got, other people like Klaus Schwab, who's one of his best friends, heading it all up now. So
what's the deal with him? Is he still alive?
Klaus Schwab, yeah.
He is, okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
There were rumours circulating that.
Oh, maybe I don't know, but his son will take up the baton. His son is very involved in all of this. So, yeah. And the final Club of Rome report was something which I always think is the seminal one, is limits to growth. It's the first global revolution, which was in 1991, just before the Earth Summit. And they were trying to find something that would unite the whole world in a crisis in order to control. And they flung about all sorts of ideas. I wonder if I've got the quote here. Sometimes I do. I don't know what I've done with my books now. No, I've probably it's up here somewhere in my bookshelf, but I've got a quote that on page, I think it's 115 of that, and it says, in order to unite humanity, we had to come up with a common threat that would unite humanity. And that threat would be, they said, it could be famine, it could be flood, it could be global warming, it could be this. We decided global warming would fit the bill. So they made it all up. And then at the end it says, so all of these are caused, global warming is, all these things are caused by human intervention. Therefore, humanity is the enemy. Humanity is our enemy. So they made us the enemy then. And so what happened after that, we realized that then the Earth Summit happened. And then in they declared Agenda 21 then, and then they moved it on a bit. They said we need to accelerate it. So it hadn't done what they wanted. The 8 millennium goals had gone nowhere by 2000. So in 2015, they launched, to accelerate Agenda 21, they launched 2030. And that's when they launched the 17 goals, which each one of those goals are there to literally destroy our infrastructure. And I've on my website, you can find an interpretation of each one of those goals, because
to demonize human living, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, that wasn't moving fast enough. So in 2019, they held a meeting in Geneva, and it was called the Strategic Framework Partnership Meeting, and it was Antonio Guterres, who then was the Secretary General of the United Nations. He still is, actually, and Klaus Schwab, and all the the leaders got together, those two organizations, and they made a plan. They said that we need to accelerate Agenda 2030. And they identified 5 things that they needed to concentrate on. One was financing Agenda 2030. One was kind of, equality for women and girls. Then there was DEI. And then there was one of them that was called digital cooperation. We need digital cooperation. And it's only now that I realize what happened, because they had that meeting in, it was June 2019, and then in 4 months later, in I think it was November 2019, they had Event 201 in New York. Now, Event 201 was the tabletop exercise of a pandemic. What if a novel coronavirus escaped in a wet market in Brazil, this was, and what would happen and how would we deal with it? And of course, the other person in the mix at that meeting was Bill and Melinda Gates, the other 2 people. And they were there to say, we've got the solution. Never mind that they'd patented the vaccine in the Pirbright Institute 8 years before. They were there with the solution, and literally their digital cooperation was sorted overnight, because whilst we were locked up, all the infrastructure went in for the 15-minute cities, the all the surveillance
5G.
cameras, all the 5G went in. When we were locked up, but they weren't. All the communications companies were out there digging up the roads, putting in surveillance cameras, putting in facial recognition, putting in number plate recognition, fiber optic cables, you name it. The whole, and in biometrics in the supermarket.
London just put in a permanent facial recognition camera.
Well, they've got them everywhere. Facial recognition is everywhere in supermarkets, particularly. Every time you do a transaction, it's taking your facial recognition,
I
unfortunately.
know some people that walk in backwards.
Yeah.
No, I know,
Wear a
because
mask.
you've got you have those monitors up here, don't you?
Yeah,
As you walk in,
yeah,
so he walks in
yeah,
back. Now, obviously, they've still got the little cameras all around the shop, so that you're still getting seen.
yeah,
But
because they have
that annoys me is, but more
data.
so when you're at the till and you've got those little screens with I just blow on my cap,
Yeah.
and obviously I try and use cash as much as I can.
Oh, cash is king. We really have to keep the cash going, because they are trying to phase that out, and that's exactly what happened also overnight in COVID. They
You
phased out.
might pass on the
Yeah,
old COVID on the.
yeah. The whole thing is such a psyop, such a setup, and of course, we went through all that trauma, and people suddenly realized what dystopia was. And it woke. I mean, the good thing about COVID, and if there is a good thing, is that it actually woke people up. That operation, that dreadful operation, woke a lot of people saw through it and they woke up. And
They also gave people the kind not gesture, but because everyone was locked down, people had all this time to go online and research.
yeah, exactly. And then some people were sitting there watching Netflix and getting furloughed and drinking and doing whatever they did, taking drugs, whatever they did to kind of escape from it. But other people were doing the research, and God bless them, because a lot of people did wake up. And it was only then that I realized, oh gosh, this goes so much deeper. I thought it would be done and dusted when Greta went away, and then I realized it was so much deeper with what the WEF had planned for us, and suddenly the WEF were publishing all these interactive maps about control of everything and control of resources. They've now taken all those interactive maps down off their website, but I suddenly realized that they wanted a circular economy. They want to phase out, our freedom of movement, cars, and just also only allowing us
Your carbon credits.
the carbon credits, and also, yeah, the whole thing of a carbon-based economy, and literally a circular economy where nothing is produced. You have to recycle everything. So
Isn't it funny? Because like you just said, look, we've got even with money, that's not really money, is it? That's all fear. That's all pretend. And so
yeah,
everything that they do
yeah,
is like, it is pantomime, isn't it? It's like, oh, this
all
is
of it's
it's
pantomime.
just so in your face
Yeah,
pretend.
yeah. And I think this time that we're alive is about the revelation. I mean, it's almost like the Revelation, the book of Revelation. Everything's being revealed to us that we've been lied to about. And
Mm,
I think it's, in some ways, if it wasn't so scary for some people, and I've kind of decided that fear is, it's not going to affect me. Sometimes I get wobbled out. I think, no, just know that it's a bit like the Wizard of Oz. You've got this person behind the curtain
yeah.
pretending to be the great controller, but actually they don't, they
Ultimately, the fear comes from you.
yeah, the fear comes from inside, and it's about us actually standing firm and saying no, to most of it, a firm no. We don't consent to this, and we don't feel that we've got the right or the strength to do that, but we do. We do have the right and strength to do that, and I think, but we have to do it
We
en
just
masse.
do it in, yeah, we need to do it in unity.
We need more people to understand that we're screwed if we don't. That's the thing. Yeah.
Mm, no, 100%. So
Yeah.
do you think that that's what this whole devolution is? Because just the word, I've always said this, just the word devolution. If evolution is progression,
Mm.
then surely devolution is the
The other
opposite,
opposite. Yeah. Yeah,
regression.
they're devolving. Yeah. Well, that's the idea, is what they want is a devolved power from Westminster to the global covenant of smart city mayors. So, I mean, I call them smart city mayors. They're called the global. Actually, I could screen share this. I can go through this a little bit because let me see. Can you see that?
I can see that global covenant of mayors for
For
climate and
climate and
emergencies.
energy. Now,
Energy.
this is they what they really want to do is devolve. I'll just put the other one up. Hang on, the devolution white paper. Yeah. Um, I want to just show this as well. This is what they intend. At the moment, we've got about 360 odd councils, or we did have, and a lot of them are being amalgamated into unitary councils. So you're getting a whole load of councils amalgamated together. Now they want to expand that so that you've only got about one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8 regions of England. So instead of having all those 360 odd councils, all with, if you like, constituents being able to have a say, you will now have these regions. And in fact, my council has just decided to become a region, and they're using all these old-fashioned names like Wessex and Mercia. I mean, your area will be Mercia, and it sounds all very wonderful and old-fashioned. So mine has just agreed to be a region of. It's called the Heart of Wessex. So this is happening. I didn't think it would, because this was something I got years
Isn't
ago.
this something that Tony Blair?
Yes, I was about to say this is something that Tony Blair put in place, and it was all to do with yeah, it was the EU plan for for
Hmm.
for for England, was to devolve and also to kind of join in with Europe as well. And parts of Kent were going to be French. I mean, at that point, this bit down here, Kent, because I used to live there, was going
So
to
would it
be.
be more like the United States of England?
It's the United States of Europe, really. That's what they want. They want the United States of Europe and England to be part of that. And we see Keir Starmer now trying. He's now
Hmm.
trying to get back
God,
into
I
the.
hate that bloke.
I know, and you see they're all, they're all Fabian socialists. They all wanted this from the very beginning. Yeah, that's the idea. So they've created this global covenant of mayors to bring this in, and what they've done it through this is the now I want everyone to look at these and read it. The Citizen Local Government Devolution Act of 2016, that was key. And then they've revived it now with the English devolution white paper, which has come in, and I'll just explain a few quotes from that, because what they said is, let me just pull this over. Um, Yeah, this is ambitious, but yeah, it's not new. This program of reform continues the work of the 1997 governments onwards, which saw the formation of the Mayor of London, the devolved parliaments, and the assemblies in Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, and the freedoms of local government, with the creation of combined authorities. It's these combined authorities that are going to become these devoluted or devolved regions,
Mm.
power of economic, social, and environmental well-being, and more locally, and what they're kind of selling it as is you'll get more. It's all local. You'll get more say. But unfortunately, what they're going to do is put one of these. Or several of these, depending how big the region is, these mayors for climate change in, and they will have more power than Westminster. They're going to have power over housing, over the NH, sort of healthcare. They're going to have power over, weirdly, they're going to have more power than police and crime commissioners. So they're going to have power over policing. Now, this is deeply disturbing because their entire remit is to actually produce, to achieve net zero by 2030 or to 2030 to 2050. So this is a way of getting a mini Sadiq Khan in every devolved area, which is really worrying.
Mm. But
Um,
I'm lost for words because I'm not a scientist.
no,
I don't claim to be a scientist. My maths are absolutely shocking. I suffer from dyscalculia, which is like dyslexia but with numbers.
yeah,
And even I know that net zero is impossible.
yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. I mean, well, even I called her Kemi bad enough. Even she mentioned the other day, she said she said net zero is not achievable in the
It's
time span.
not. It's not.
It's not. And what it's doing is it's creating chaos, and that's what they want. They want chaos, order out of chaos, and it's impoverishing the people of this country. Many things are impoverishing us at the moment. We've got net zero impoverishing us, where they're doing things like you've got EPC certificates for your house, which are going to get really draconian. And you will have to retrofit your house at your own expense. You won't be able to sell or rent your house out or do Airbnb unless you've got a rating that's high enough on the EPC register certificate. Um,
Mm.
and
See, now, at what point, though, are we, sorry to interrupt you, by the way,
yeah, go on.
but at what point are we going to say, do you know what? Bollocks, sod off. We're
Well,
not, we're not
this is it.
complying.
Yeah, I think this is where it gets to, is that they're trying to, I have to stop saying, they're trying to take away on the net zero document, or the absolute zero document. They're trying to get rid of wood burning stoves.
Yeah.
They're trying to have no flying in or out of the UK by 2050. They're trying to stop
Stop
shipping
shipping, yeah.
by 2050. So we've got all this being thrown at us. We have to just say no. If the aviation industry won't go along with that, how can they stop everybody flying unless they, I don't know.
Well,
Uh,
this is it, and this is what I don't understand because there's so many companies and businesses putting themselves out of business by
yeah,
following this
exactly.
ridiculous
Yeah.
thing. They're
ESG, environmental and social governance contracts for businesses is destroying businesses. They're being made to comply to ESG scoring, if you like. It's carbon scoring. Now, are your employees cycling to work? Have you provided a shower for them for when they get to work so they can have a shower when they get to work? Are you employing enough diverse people in your employment? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? Are you adhering to climate, sort of carbon regulations? How good is your score in your business?
mm.
All this is more paperwork for businesses and more money
And
for
I was
business.
going to say expense.
Yeah, the expense, exactly. So, I mean, Angela Rayner says about the devolution, these smart city mayors. She said, this is a quote from her: "We will give mayors strong new powers over housing, planning, transport, energy skills, employment support, and more, backed up with integrated and consolidated funding. Devolution will no longer be agreed at the whim of a minister in Whitehall, but embedded as a default." into our country's constitution, we will rewire national government so that our first instincts are to deliver in partnership with mayors and council leaders, not sideline them until the last moment. Well, the thing is, it's all about the power being given to these mayors, and we won't have a say, because it's being taken away from our representative government and into their hands, and their sole mission is to deliver net zero by 2030 to 2050. So we know what that will entail. It will entail climate lockdowns. It will entail more ULEZ, more carbon zones, more LTNs. This is going to.
All the Blade Runners are going to be busy, aren't they?
Oh, well, absolutely. Do you know, it's
They're going to be
just
hugely
structure.
busy.
It can be, yeah, it can be dealt with. This is it. This is where we, it gets so dystopian that we have to do something,
Mm.
and we haven't done enough really up
But,
until now.
but this is what annoys me though, because it weren't that long ago, but long enough that you had, I can't think of the bloke's name now, the bald bloke who was the side aide to Boris Johnson, who spilt the
Oh
beer.
yes, yeah,
The
Cummings.
Cumming does it,
Oh,
Dominic
dreadful.
Cumming, yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he said they all read from scripts. So like when you read that bit from Angela Rayner, she didn't
Yeah.
write that, did she? She just read it.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. The
they're all
script.
actors.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they just
But
literally.
why aren't people why wasn't that sorry, I was getting to my point. Why wasn't that enough for people to go when he came out with that bombshell?
I don't know. I don't know. I just I find it extraordinary. And what I believe is that there's good people doing bad things in government. It was interesting. I did this talk in Sherdington in Gloucestershire last week. Was it? No, the weekend before last. And two MPs came. One of them was absolutely spot on. He was amazing. He's the MP for the Cotswolds. His name's what's his name? Sir Geoffrey Clifton Brown. And he was so awake, it was untrue. He knew
Mm,
exactly what I was talking. He shook my hand. He was lovely. And then there was another lady there who was instrumental in the Climate and Nature Bill. And her name was Liz Savage. And she did, Ros Savage, sorry, Ros Savage. And she did have the courtesy to come up to me and say, "Can you send me your talk? Because I missed it. And I'm going to be here for the rest of the day. And I want to know.
mm.
I want to know what's really going on." So I think if we could spawn this kind of waking up of people within Parliament to know that their jobs are going to go, they are not going to be in any way, they won't have any power because all the power they're planning to devolve to these directly elected mayors or smart city mayors or whatever you want to call them. It's unbelievable, really. Yeah.
It is
So
terrible.
Westminster will cease to be. It will be taken over by these mini Sadiq Khans, and we know where that's, what's happened in London. If you imagine that happening in every region of the UK, we're lost. So I just feel that people need to know about this, and more than anything, your MP needs to know about this. Yeah.
No, 100%.
How do I go back to me? Because I think I've shared everything.
Have you done everything you want, have you?
Oh, am I still there? Can you still see me?
Yeah, I can see
Yeah.
you.
So the English Devolution white paper, please, people, look it up, look at it. Look at the Cities and Local Government Devolution Act 2016, because that was the beginning of it. And well, Tony Blair was the beginning of it actually, but it all got turned down because the Tories got into power and they realised what was going on, I guess. But it's now going through it's a sort of like a massive rate since Starmer's got in, and we've got to really fight it with all our might. So that's devolution. How do I stop sharing?
I don't know. I'm
Oh,
not very good at this. Is it just like an
let's see.
X?
Oh, here we go. I can see it. I found it. Stop share. There we go.
There you go. Look at that. That's better. Hey, we're back.
Right. So
But it is just amazing what they can get away with
yeah,
these
yeah,
days.
yeah.
30 years ago, this would have been all over the papers. This would have been front page news.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Now it's just
yeah.
under the carpet.
Exactly. And we've managed to fight off the climate and nature bill, which was really draconian, for another 6 months. It's like playing whack-a-mole,
It
And
is, yeah, just
another one pops up. Now we've got the this planning act that's all about land grab,
it's
unbelievable.
purgatory.
Yeah. And the poor farmers are under a lot of um, stress with compulsory purchase for building houses. Who is going to live in these houses? Why are we
Mm,
building them all?
mm.
Put two and two
But
together.
again, there with the farmers, at what point do they say no, queue?
They are beginning to. I mean, what I'm so pleased about is a lot of farmers in my area were not very awake. They're beginning to become awake. Certainly, I've noticed in Cornwall and Devon, my goodness, they are absolutely on it. They're really, really radical. They know what's going on. They're so awake, some of these farmers. I've had meetings with them.
Don't say radical, for goodness
No,
sake.
I don't mean
No,
radical.
I
I
don't know.
mean, what I mean is that they are, what can I put, how can I put it? They're passionate. They're passionate about what's happening and they want to take action, real
Mm.
action. And they will do. And they're organizing themselves now. And good on them because
Well, I've
they,
had Erwin Morrow on my podcast a few times, and he's a passionate dairy farmer from down West Country.
oh,
So
really?
yeah, he's really good bloke.
Good, because there's several of them. We meet up sometimes, and I can see that they are ready. They're ready to, there's loads of ways that they're land grabbing. Obviously, they're using this whole compulsory purchase thing. We're going to compulsory purchase your land for housing, whether you want it or not. They're either using flooding, that we've just batted off a ridiculous plan to flood a whole area of the North Somerset coast with seawater to mitigate um, fish being sucked into the new nuclear reactor they built at Hinkley Point. I mean, absolutely ludicrous reasons to flood, the farmland. Now that it's the most rich farmland on the North Somerset coast because they call them salt marshes, where the certain times of the year when the cattle come out of the sheds, they go and eat on the salt marshes because it's very
Mm.
nutritious, and then they move on to the ordinary. When they've had enough, they move on to the ordinary. They move on to the normal grazing, but the salt marshes are very important for that nutrient level. And there's farms all over the North Somerset coast, and then suddenly Hinkley Point. And North Somerset Council announced that they were going to re-sea that area. Actually, let the uh, allow the I don't know how they were going to do it, but allow it to flood because there's drainage and infrastructure to stop it flooding. So they were going to stop that, let it flood, because they were worried that 44 tons of fish were going to be killed being sucked into the cooling reactors, and that in order to mitigate that, they needed more area for the fish to breed. And that was their excuse. So they were,
So in about 10 years' time, they can say, "Oh look, global warming. Look,
yeah,
sea level rising. Look how
yeah,
much land we've lost."
yeah, exactly. And they're trying to do it all over all the low-lying areas. And you've got low-lying areas
There
near
we've
you.
got blows in
They've
Norfolk.
got they've got plans to flood it under sea level. Say it's sea level rise, but actually they're getting rid of the infrastructure that was put in hundreds of years ago to stop the flooding. Like the Dutch helped us,
Mm.
reclaim land because it's that's what most of the farmland in places like Norfolk and parts of Kent and certainly parts of Somerset are low lying. They're below sea level, so or at sea level, and the this is rich pasture land that in a way needs to be got rid of in their whole plan. So there was a big hoo-ha about it. All the farmers got up in arms, and we got Tessa Munt on it, and she's managed to stave it off now. They found a way of putting a sonar, some sort of sonar thing that fish don't like, so they don't get sucked into this reactor. But they said it may not work, and we may have to go back to our original plan. But because of public involvement, they stopped it. And it is literally trying to stop everything at the moment. We're really being challenged. It's about, using your local people to say no to things. And I think this is what we need to do
Mhm.
more. Yeah.
So, are you because I'm on the, I don't know really, because I used to be a councillor for Thetford, but I understand now, especially with talking to people like Clive from Capillary Wave, that every time you vote, you're just you're acquiescing, aren't you? You're giving your consent to be governed. It's like when it's like
Yes, I
petitions.
agree, but how,
It's like asking the person beating you up to beat you a little bit hard, a
yeah,
little bit softer.
yeah. I do absolutely understand that. What it needs is people in these systems, and I understand, but how do you do it? How do you smash something and build something from nothing? What we have to use at the moment, I think it's a longer process. It's a more how can I put it? It's almost like a slow process of getting people in power, people like your MPs. And I certainly see a lot of MPs beginning to wake up to what's going on. To get your MPs to wake up and to do it from within, so
Mm.
it happens almost organically, that the power shifts to the people by the very fact that people in power who make bad decisions wake up and realize that the people know what's going on, and the people have more knowledge than they do. And also, and I think it could work, it could work sort of or more organically, because if you smash it, you'll have anarchy, and that's not going to get us anywhere. Do you see what I mean?
Mm.
I don't know. What are your views on it?
Well, I like anarchy, but not anarchy in the sense that when most people think anarchy, they just think like Sex Pistols go, "Ah." But it's
Yeah,
not. It's just not to be governed. It's
yeah.
yeah. But I don't know how you do that on
But
the world
I think that
stage.
in my view, you always will need some kind of. I believe that almost like elders, in every, certainly in they had witans, and you do need
Mhm.
some sort of guidance from people who, otherwise it's a free for all, and it doesn't work. I think there has to be some sort of structure, some sort of structured. Um,
I
I think
think we just all need to live by common law
common law, exactly. Yes, yeah.
and be held accountable to common law.
Is
Half
everyone?
most of what is going on in this world today wouldn't go on if there was proper accountability.
I totally agree. But my worry is that that not everybody is evolved enough to
Mm.
um to understand what accountability is or responsibility is. It's almost like you need almost like a great big shift in consciousness to get everybody on board with that ideology. Because you and I would happily embrace common law and abide by those rules. There's an awful lot.
Responsibility to be able to respond.
Yes, exactly. But is everybody at that level? No, the majority of people aren't. That's the trouble.
Yeah, but
That's
that
what
is quite shocking because even as children, you're kind of taught responsibility, aren't you?
I think children, I mean, a lot of children have it innately within them, to be good and to not do harm and all that stuff. I think it's I don't know what happens when they get to school. It's the survival of the fittest, it's bullies and what have you. They learn, the bad stuff, I guess. And I think, we need to. This is going to take decades
I
and
mean,
decades.
we inherently know what's good and what's not good,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is how we've managed to revolve
yeah,
however long, depending on what book you
yeah,
read.
yeah.
But no, I don't know. I'm always hopeful that good will conquer evil
Yeah.
because that's what we're always taught, and
Yes,
that's
exactly. Yeah. And I've still got that vision that, that this evil, I mean, I don't know whether the earth has ever been under such evil. When you see what is going on in Gaza and in Ukraine and, Syria, you just think, my God, this can't go on. This level of evil can't go on.
but how much of that is actually going on?
I think it is. I think, well, I've got friends on the front line in
It's good that you've got contacts there because
Yeah,
that certainly does help with that
yeah.
statement. But you know, you
I
see
don't
so
think
many of these
we invented
staged
the
videos where you've got tanks all here, but then you look that way and it's just a normal street, nice and quiet, nice and
well,
peaceful.
there's a lot of that
Much
as
like they did during the pandemic with all these
yeah, yeah,
hazmats, and then
yeah.
you turn the camera and it's just normal day.
Mm. Well, there is stuff going on, but they probably throw a few things like that in to question your perception of reality.
Mm.
'Cause that is another psyop. Is it's funny at the Earth Summit. There was a whistleblower called George Hunt, and he listened to a lot of things that were being said at that summit with all the billionaires, and they said what we're going to create is the lostness of the mind, where people don't know who they are or what is the truth is. And that's exactly what we're seeing now, is that you
Especially
don't,
with the transgender movement.
yeah, well, you've got transgender that, they don't know who they're getting lost in, they don't know who they are, they don't know what they are. And with the mainstream media, we're being told lies, so we don't know what the truth is. As you said, even, video footage, is this really happening? Is it some kind of Truman show? What is
Is it
real?
AI?
Is it AI? Exactly. And we're just at this stage. And what you really have to do is go inwards and really go inside and ask what is the truth and
Mm.
be.
Are you a meditator?
I am a meditator. I'm a dowser as well. I
Are
have my
you any? See, I would love to have. I've tried meditation
yeah.
so
I
many
probably
times. You just focus on your breathing. And I'll tell you the best thing, and I always tell everyone to do this, and yet I always never do it myself. But when I did do it, it was amazing, and that's the Wim Hof breath work,
Oh yeah, no, that's
the
amazing. That is
holotropic
incredible.
breathing. That
Yeah.
is incredible. How you feel after 3 rounds of that? It's like,
Oh,
oh,
absolutely. You could actually take on an army. I mean, there is a massive amount of stuff that we are capable of. It's mind, our mind is able to do. It is literally mind over matter that we are not in our full capability, and that's deliberate. We've been
yeah,
dumbed down. And I also pray. I do have a faith. I do believe in a higher power, and
yeah.
I
Same
God,
as me.
yeah.
Spiritual, not religious.
Exactly. And I do look at the scriptures as well, because it is uncannily weird that a lot of it's coming true. And
Yeah, see, no, I have an
you
issue.
think they wrote it?
I think the cabal is like, right, this is what we're gonna do, lads, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
they
So
did.
so then all you people go, look, it's coming true. Look, it's there. They've written it. Yeah, they have written it. You're right.
Cabal wrote
Um,
it thousands and
so
thousands.
yeah, but I do
Well,
like
who
the
knows?
Bible for the sacred secretion where your body is your temple and everything
Absolutely,
in that
yeah.
is relating to your body.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And there's all sorts of good stuff there to takeaways there to strengthen you, and to also, who knows who wrote it? I mean, who knows if the Cabal wrote it? We don't know anything. You
We
you
don't know.
need to go
I
in,
think our whole entire history timelines are
yeah.
fabricated.
Yeah, there's a lot being revealed about history at the moment. I mean, just last week, they made those discoveries under the Giza pyramids, that there's massive underground works, engineering
Mm.
underneath the Giza pyramids. We don't know anything. Look at Göbekli Tepe.
I do wonder if that's distraction though,
Oh well, that's some of it might,
because
some of it may
yeah,
not.
some. I think it was even in the Bible, wasn't it? Where they said like the truth would be so outlandish
Yeah.
that everyone would perceive it to be a lie.
Yeah. Yeah.
So who
Yeah.
knows? That is. I have always had that fascination with the pyramids.
With everything that's, because I live near Stonehenge and Avebury, and you think, well, why did they have these stones aligned to the solstices and the stars, and what is it all about? There's got to be some kind of reason. And that is all part and parcel of what's going on. It's hidden history, masses of hidden history that we haven't been allowed to access.
Mm.
Children are being taught ridiculous things in schools about history. So yeah, we've just got to.
Stonehenge, that used to belong to a bloke, and he gave it to his wife, didn't he, as a birthday present?
I don't know. Was it?
Yeah. And they ended up giving it to the county, and but there's like provisos, like people must always be allowed to go and visit it, and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've seen early photos of the stones being craned.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, they did. And they've put them all in the wrong place. I mean, Maria Wheatley's very good at this. She's fantastic. She really has got to the nub of lots of sacred sites. If you want to look at her stuff, she's amazing. And yes, they put all the stones in the wrong place, and they did it. It's almost, well, now it's been taken over by the World Heritage, UNESCO. Would you believe it? It's a UN UNESCO site. And they take over these sacred sites. And you do wonder, is this because, I mean, they know the power of these places. They've
Because
taken
the
over
landlines.
Machu Picchu,
Mm.
and you know that they've just made a bid. Our council are trying to make Glastonbury a World Heritage Site because of the tour. They know that the tour has, it has energy. Those ley lines are real. They're not some kind of made up thing. And what we're worried about, we are opposing it. And I've stepped back from it. I've said I'll help you, but I've got too much on. Somebody here has to, take it over. And there's this wonderful woman called Amanda Gazidis, and she's taken on fighting the council over, or sort of challenging the council over it. And the thing is, the council have already gone through the consultation phase. They've paid some consultant with a glossy brochure to to go ahead with the promoting of this World Heritage Site. And all I see is that they will do what they did at Stonehenge. You'll have a gift shop run by Disney, and you'll have, you'll have to book to go up the tour maybe 6 weeks in advance, pay, and all this should be open to everyone. I mean, every
Mm.
day there's some pagan or some shaman up there banging a drum, doing something, I don't know what, but whatever they're doing, good on them. They're doing good stuff, and leave them alone. Let them
Yeah,
carry
absolutely.
on.
Do you think if they got Glastonbury as a heritage site, that they would try and end the festival?
Um, I wish. No, the festival is completely captured now. It's very sad to see what's happened to Glastonbury Festival. I mean, it used to be a really wonderful, heartfelt, festival for people to come together. It's now a corporation.
It's
It's
just become another monetized
it's awful. I mean,
body.
they brought 5G into the festival site a few years ago. They put up the whole festival, they put 5G towers up for the whole festival. And they've got they've got people coming, like Greta Thunberg was on there one year. They get all the woke brigade in. Michael Eavis and Emily Eavis are totally woke. They haven't a clue what is coming. And the bands they've got, I think, a lot of them are, it's all that satanic stuff. And it is literally, it's a pyramid stage on that very, very, that on that ley line, on that
Mm.
very. So what they do is I mean, this is probably going a bit off, but they bring all these youngsters in who have money. I mean, you can't buy a ticket. You've got to have a bit of money to buy a ticket for Glastonbury now. And they
This one
start,
went over the fence
well, exactly. They put the fence around. That
back
was
in
the
his day.
fence round, and security, and they've expanded it so much. And of course then they say, oh, we've got to put a fence up now because people are trying to get over, they can't afford to get in. And so it started there, but what with the drugs that go on there.
Do you think it will become a heritage site then?
They're really going for it, and the only way that it can be stopped is again local action, and we have put together some local action. But at the end of the day, it may, I mean, it's a long-term thing. It may happen in 6 years' time. It may happen, but they're definitely our council are pushing for it because the minute you make it a World Heritage Site, you increase all the tourism.
Mm.
And of course, a small town like ours wouldn't cope with it. And then they bring in the corporates. You'll find it will all be Airbnbs. It'll all be they'll have to put up extra accommodation, maybe new hotels. They'll bring in Starbucks and Costa Coffee and all the things that these people want, all these tourists want. And our high street at the moment, luckily, doesn't have any of that. It doesn't have, it's a really unique high street that sells crystals and magic wands, things like that. So who knows?
And
Who knows?
coffee shops.
Yeah, we have independent shops, really nice ones, really
That's
good.
good. See,
Co-op.
I always used to love, we always used to, because my wife is from Stratford upon Avon,
Yeah.
and we always used to go to Bourton on the Water.
Oh, yes, that's
It was
pretty.
beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful. And that had all like little quirky shops, the Christmas shop, different
Yeah.
jewelers. And that was really nice. I'd love to go there again soon, but it's just so far from where we are
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Thetford. Where all we have is betting shops, Turkish barbers, and a Greggs. Yeah. Happy days.
Happy days.
Happy days. So I understand then, talking of Thetford, that on July the 18th to the 19th, you will be joining us at the Thetford Truth and Freedom Festival.
I will, and I will talk on all things that you want to talk about. I was thinking it is quite a farming community around in Norfolk, and I will certainly be going into the land grab. The farmers are being threatened with all sorts of things like sites of scientific interest is
Mm.
another one that DEFRA are landing on them. That, you know, your field has got to be put out of use because there's a special spider that's on it, and we've got to close it off, and we will give you half the rent that you would have got normally, and we'll commandeer it for the next 10 years.
Mm. Bats is a big one, isn't it? Bats.
Bats are a big one, but that's usually buildings bats, not necessarily fields, but fields,
Mm.
it's some sort of furry animal or insect that they want to protect. But it's happening far too often, and there's a move now to take the power away from DEFRA because it's not necessarily DEFRA, it's actually Natural England. What happened is DEFRA used to be in charge of sites of scientific interest, and it's been given to it's not even an NGO, it's a it's a government organization called Natural England, and you think it's a bit like, World Heritage or whatever, or English Heritage, but it's
Mm.
not. It's there simply to shut off farmland and take it out of production, unfortunately. And it
Use it
has,
for solar panels.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We've got all that, solar panels, wind farms, anything but growing food. And we do have a food, we should be calling a food emergency. Forget the climate emergency. Should be
Mm.
a yeah.
Which is, like you say, which is incredible to think, given where we live
Oh
with so
yeah,
much farmland. It's like,
yeah.
of all the things that we shouldn't have, is that.
And I don't know if you've noticed, but if you drive through, if you go on a long journey and you drive through large swathes of England, it's a big lawn. There's nothing going on.
Yeah.
Nothing going on.
And the so blatant when you're driving along, like you say, you're going in the countryside and whatnot. Where's all the bug splats?
Yeah.
There's no bugs anymore either, is there? No.
No,
I
no.
remember on a hot sunny evening driving through the forest. When I got home, the headlights would be covered with splats.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
No, you're right. There is, and that's all to do with the spraying and the pesticides and just about everything. So yeah, we're really being hit with so much, and it's about staying strong and literally, creating your armor. and going out into battle and
Mm.
understanding that your mind, you don't have to, you have to get over the fact that you are not powerful and you're a victim, because that's how they've made us feel. They've beaten us up. They've beaten us up for years and years and years. And we've kind of, we're a bit sort of punch drunk, but it's about understanding that that's the agenda and that we do have the power within ourselves to fight it. I wouldn't be here today, speaking to you if I didn't think we could win this, if we got enough people on board. And that's what
Mm.
it's about. And it's about breaking into, getting our alternative media to literally break through that ceiling, because mainstream media, a lot of people are getting fed up with it. They'll be looking to the alternative media. And that's where I feel UK Column really come in, because I'm working for them now. And they've been getting bigger and bigger over the last few years. And, I know they're ethical and I know they're pushing out real truth. And we have to just literally, um, get the normies to actually watch these, alternative media instead of
Mm.
E and all the other stupid channels that are pushing out lies.
Have you written any articles in the light paper?
I haven't recently. I did in the beginning, and I,
Okay.
I keep saying to Dad, I helped him with the Agenda 2030. He's got a pamphlet out, what Agenda 2030 means to you, and I helped him with that. I've got to get writing his articles as well, because I'm doing stuff. I've got a whole load of stuff. I've set up a Substack as well. I've got loads of articles I could actually field his way. And because I've been so busy recently, I haven't got round to it. But yes, I would
Mm.
love to
That's good.
get started.
Where's is Daz based? I can't talk. Where is Daz based?
It's up north somewhere. I don't
He's
know.
up north. Well, I was
Yeah.
just wondering whether maybe his band come down and play at the festival.
Oh, yeah.
Given
I mean,
he's a truth band,
have you, yeah, I
I'll
can.
have to have
I
a
can
word
put
with
you-
Mark
Yeah.
Scousey.
Are you in touch with Daz?
On Facebook, yeah, and I think I've got his phone number.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
he's a lovely bloke and talented.
Mm.
And yeah, the Daz band would be great there, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
would be quite. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to have a word with Mark.
Yeah.
Is it his to organise and all that?
Yeah.
But no. So, anything else on the agenda?
Um, oh gosh, there's so much, there's the whole migrants thing, what is, you know, ha- what is going on. I did do a thing on UK Column about cities of sanctuary, because they're bringing in so many of these people, and we've known about it for a long time. It's a very old plan, the clergy plan, and I thought, oh, clergy plan, or maybe that's some kind of conspiracy theory, and I researched it years ago, and I found out that there was this prize that's given every year. And if you doubt, if you doubt that the clergy, Couldn't clergy plan is a real plan in action now, and it was brought through by this guy called Peter Sutherland, who used to be in the EU. He progressed the clergy plan. His name's Peter Sutherland. He's dead now, but we're talking 1990s, 1980s, 1990s. So um, the clergy plan is a plan to uh, and it was written by this guy called Count Coudenhove Clergy,
It's
and
to
he,
eradicate the white race, isn't it?
yeah, it was not necessarily, well, it was to homogenize them, really. It was to, yeah, to get rid of, because everybody would be easier to control if they were rootless and raceless. It's quite a clever plan, really. But I thought it was always conspiracy, when I first.
I think it's labelled a conspiracy on old Wikipedia.
Oh, it is, it is. But you only have to look at now Coudenhove Kalergi in 1958. He received something from the EU. I think it wasn't the EU then, but it was the EEC, or I don't know. They got some plan together, and they created the Kalergi Prize, and it was called the Charlemagne Prize. And so Coudenhove Kalergi got it. And since then, since 1958, somebody has been awarded that prize for progressing the plan. And you'll see that Angela Merkel's got it, Tony Blair's got it, all of these people, the Pope Francis got it, and Vladimir Zelensky's had it. So all of this, if you doubt whether the clergy plan is real, look at the recipients of the Coudenhove Clergy Charlemagne Prize, and it's called the Charlemagne Prize. Um, you'll see that it's all the people that are progressing that agenda right now. So that's, yeah, that's
And I
pretty.
guess they've all got ties to the WEF as well, haven't they?
Oh, 100%.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember, but when I was going through it, I thought, oh my goodness, it's almost like it's like a list of all the main,
Much like the world leaders
yeah,
thing, the
yeah,
show.
the
Yeah,
global
so global world
catchphrase,
leaders, all
global
very
leaders,
same.
all that too. Yeah, so we've really how this has all happened is really open infiltration over many, many years. Fabian Society, um, the global leaders, the whole thing. It's almost as though you've got this massive, massive plan to destabilize the whole world, and that's what we're seeing. And maybe it. I just feel that it will something will happen that will kind of blow the whole thing out of the water at some point. We're living in this time where we're all waiting for something to happen. Do you feel that? We're
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many theories, though, aren't there? I mean, you've got Mark Scouse, who he's a heavy believer in like the white hats, and like he thinks that a lot of this is all what you're seeing now is all a show. It's all
yeah,
a lot of the big figures have already been taken out. You're just seeing an act, and the act is only there to wake people up to what's been going on. But all the big players are actually already being wiped out. Oh, there's so much.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, also Trump. What's going on there? You've got to really be so careful because I've got friends that are total Trump supporters, and then some that were but aren't now because of what's gone on in Yemen recently. And we've got to understand that, yeah, he's getting rid of the wokery, but what else is happening as well? So,
he's saying all the right things to
and then
get
doing
people on
other,
side
yes,
to
exactly.
garner trust and all that, but it's probably walking them down an avenue that you don't want to go down.
Again, I always look at the Bolshevik Revolution because it's the same playbook as what's happening now. And during the Bolshevik Revolution, they had a thing called Operation Trust, and it was trust us. And it's just like trust the plan.
Mm.
Trust us. We're doing all the right things. And they did some things that got people on board with that. And then, you know, you the Bolshevik Revolution, they created the Holodomor and, genocided hundreds of thousands of people in Europe. This is what is really going on? We've got to
That's it.
it.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the assassination attack was a ridiculous.
I know,
That
yes.
wasn't real. And
Yeah,
I've since seen you can buy those little blood caps that you put behind your ear and they
I
go
know.
off.
And
So I don't
if
buy it.
he,
At the
if
end of
he
the day, anyone if we talk about like the Illuminati and all these people being behind the curtains doing all this with all the actors doing that, but then you've got I don't know how to explain it, but somebody like that would have to be put there.
yeah,
If he was such a threat to the status quo, I don't think that he would be where he is. He would have been taken out.
yeah, no, I agree. And also, I know this is silly, but I watched that footage over and over again,
What, the assassination
the
attempt?
assassination. And if he was Prince Charles with great big ears that stick out, it might have just worked. But he's got ears very close to his head. Now, if somebody had actually fired a bullet and it had clipped his ear, it would have done also a lot of damage to the face because he's got ears that are very close to his head. So how the hell, and then of course he dropped down and then there's the blood and then he's, as he's getting into the car, he's holding his fist up and wouldn't somebody have got him then? It was just, the whole thing
It's
looked as
it,
though
it
it's changed. Yeah.
it's all very 9/11,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
The biggest. It was like watching a movie
Yeah.
in the on how it looked, how it came across, and
Yeah.
never since has have we seen such grandeur when it comes to an attack, and that was because that was the catalyst to start
To start it all.
everything from that point, isn't it? But yeah, it's a crazy world. It's such an interesting time to be alive. Don't necessarily know if I'm loving it at the moment, but
No, no, it's a hard time to be alive because everything's being questioned and your whole life is destabilized because everything that you've been taught, everything you've ever known has been a lie, most of it.
Mm.
And you've just got to rethink, rejig your whole belief systems. And it's so hard. It's so hard. And there's some people that simply can't cope with that and descend into distractions like drugs, alcohol, whatever,
Mhm.
because they can't cope with the reality of what's going on, or they just cut off. I've seen it in my own family. They just cut off because they can't cope with it all.
Mm.
It's horrible.
I have family members like that, and I was going to say you must find it quite difficult. I was going to say, how how do you find it with your family, your loved ones, given what you do?
Um, I was mad mother for a long time. You're crazy, or and I just I I don't know. I just and it was during COVID that they all woke up, and I said, don't take that thing. It will make you ill, it will make you infertile, it will, and they listened, thank God. And even though they're still a bit woke, my one of my daughters works in reality television. She
Really?
she works in reality television. She's abroad at the moment on some desert island filming some awful thing, which I say that poor girl. Don't I hope she doesn't watch this, but it's
So you
it's
haven't named her.
it's no, we haven't named her, but it's a bit like Love Island meets Married at First Sight, and it's all drama and sort of crazy reality television. But she didn't get jabbed, and she's awake to a degree, but it's la la la. I don't want to hear it. I live in this glamorous world, and it's never going to stop. And I want my world to be like this all the time. And
Mm.
my other one is very down to earth. My other daughter is down to earth. She's a midwife, and she did wake up and she didn't get jabbed and all that stuff. Um, and then I've got a son who's totally awake. He's totally on the page, and he now says, "I'm proud of you, Mum." But before I was,
Mm.
still, you're crazy, and now he
You had
says,
to go through. You had to go through the David Icke years
"Yeah, I
to
had to
come out
go."
the other side.
And not quite to the extent that he did, bless him, but in my own way, I had to.
Mm.
And I just carried on. I knew, when you've got conviction in your heart, what is really happening. You feel it's your duty not to stop. You can't give up. You've got to carry on. And even though I was being called, even like I changed my life, to be honest. I used to work in the corporate world. I was married, we lived in London, we had the lifestyle, we had everything, and I couldn't continue it. I actually, I was working with Microsoft, I was working with Google, with GlaxoSmithKline, and I just couldn't do it. And I had this breakdown, basically. It was a breakthrough. And my ex-husband works for Tony Blair. I couldn't go on with it. So I ended the whole thing. My children were very good. They could see that it wasn't, things weren't right. And they understood and they were very good about it. But I changed my life completely and totally impoverished myself by going with my heart. And I knew. And then of course, it was that time when I was really waking up to Agenda 2021, and everybody thought I was mad because nobody had ever heard of it, thought I was bonkers. And now we're living with the legacy of what they've planned for the last, 30 years odd, since 92. Yeah. So
It's
it's a,
probably longer
it's a
than that,
hard
to be
gig.
fair, because they've been predicting catastrophe, climate change predictions for about 60 years.
Yeah. Yeah,
So it's
exactly.
yeah, it's been going on
1970.
longer than that. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time today. I've really enjoyed chatting with you. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah,
Always learning new things,
yeah.
and it
I hope
just
so.
makes me just realize how little I know, really.
Oh no, you know but you're there, and you're asking people like myself and others to put it out, and that's
This is it. I'm just the
you're the conduit. Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
I'm the facilitator of
Facilitate.
sharing information.
Yeah.
But thank you so
Well done.
much.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it, and I really look forward to seeing you in July.
Okay, yeah, it'd be good. It'd be fun. I've
Need
never
my
been
guitar.
before. I'm
Have
not
you
really.
not?
You got alcohol-free beer?
I'm sure there is. I'm sure there'll be alcohol-free stuff.
No, I do. I mean, I might even have a few proper beers, but yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not a great
We're
drinker.
gonna we're gonna film her. She's gonna be rat-arsed. She'll
Yeah, you get
two
me
glasses of wine and she's
Look
anyone's.
at her. Look at her. She's gone. Okay,
Nice
thanks
one.
a
No,
lot.
brilliant. Hope everyone watching this has enjoyed themselves and learned some stuff. Please do check out your. Have you got a website? Yeah, your website. What's your website?
sandyadams.net. And it's work in progress because it actually got hacked about a few years ago, and I've had to rebuild it. And some of it is a bit out of date, but I've been putting some new stuff on recently. I certainly put up the 17 goals, and I've put up all the farming stuff that I did with UK. I did some farming interviews, about 3 hours of farming interviews, and also the Agenda 2030 interviews I did with UK Column.
Hmm.
So it's got a lot of stuff that you can get your teeth into anyway. Yeah.
There you go. Brilliant. So check that
And
out.
do
I'll
watch
leave.
UK Column.
Yes, I will leave UK column your website link in the video description, and I shall also leave the link to Fat Soma if anybody would like to come and watch me play guitar, listen to Sandy and other speakers speak at our festival in Thetford. Well, it's not Thetford, it's Larling at the Angel Inn, but it's close to Thetford and it's a fantastic venue. So if you're interested in that, check out the links below and order. Thank you all. Look after yourselves. Take care. Bye for now.